How do you manage stress?
Alcohol, usually. No. I'm trying to drink less, to be fair, so you guys are ruining everything.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of CISOs Making Cocktails, where we mix signature drinks with even better stories from the world of security. My name is Ryan Kazanciyan. I'll be hosting today, and I'm also the CISO of Wiz, and I'm joined by John Rogers, CISO at MSCI.
Thanks for having me.
We've also got our mixologist and bartender, Vernon.
Very excited to make a little drink for you guys today. It's going to be the code fashioned. So hope you don't mind a little bit of Scarby whiskey, big old ice cubes, some bitters. We're going to have a good time.
Thank you. I was going to ask, what's your go-to drink?
It's usually straight scotch. I grew up in the northern part of England, so drinking scotch.
Has your taste evolved over time?
Yeah, I like more expensive stuff now than I used to. During COVID, my dad and I used to get together over Zoom calls and just kind of get drinks together and things like
really
that.
Cool. So everyone picked up good hobbies during COVID isolation times.
Or bad ones.
So as a CISO, your day starts like wake up in fire drill mode, or do you like to plan out your day, kind of chill out and relax?
I don't think there's ever a day where it's chill and relax. It's usually somewhere in between, right? I have a lot of people on my team that work in Europe, Asia, so I wake up and I have lots of emails to go through, so I tend to like roll over, once my alarm goes off, and I have like all these emails to go through.
Guys, a code fashioned for you.
Thank you.
With the scotch.
Yeah, excellent.
Do you have a scotch that might be your particular favorite?
The Glenlivet that you used for this is my dad's favorite, so thank you.
Well, to the man himself.
Cheers. Thank you. Oh, that's very, very good.
Yeah, not bad.
Excellent. So where did your career start out in the industry?
I worked at Bank of America as a information security engineer. I was writing security standards for really old systems like Tandem, Vax, and Stratus, these sort of mid-range platforms that we don't really use as much anymore. Certainly not at MSCI, thankfully.
So if someone were looking at your LinkedIn profile, what's one thing they would never guess?
That my first job was at Dairy Queen, selling ice cream and making ice cream cones.
Picking up some customer service skills, I'm sure, as part of that.
The amount of crazy, hectic, kind of behavior that I was dealing with when I was working there was way worse than I deal with now. So maybe it was kind of considered training.
Given how stressful security as a job is, what's your preferred way to disconnect?
I'll walk my dog and listen to a podcast or listen to an audiobook.
Fiction or nonfiction?
A bit of both. I'm going through the Agatha Christie books right now.
Okay.
Unlike the day-to-day work, you end up at the end, it's like all buttoned up and everybody knows like who the villain was and like what they did, and it was all very clear, and unlike everything that we deal with in security.
Yeah. When you think about how the role is changing, what skills are emerging or you think are on the horizon that are going to be crucial for CISOs to invest in the next couple of years?
I'm starting to see a shift that's happening now, that the CISO tends to be a bit more threat-oriented, so expanding beyond just cybersecurity.
Does that embrace also if you're a consumer-facing business?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the customers in the end don't really care if it was someone tripping over a cable in a data center or if it was a cyber attack. They want to make sure that your services are available for them.
Do you think that CISOs need to have some background in software development to be effective partners there?
Well, you can ask me again in 5 years and see where we are with AI, but I still think it's really important. You cannot do security without a good working relationships with your software developers.
How do you keep your team focused and feeling like they're not just firefighting, that they're actually like racking up some wins?
Easier said than done. We have a MITRE attack-oriented strategy at MSCI, so we think about the threats and we organize ourselves around responding and improving our controls against those particular threats. So I think that drives a lot of the motivation of the team.
So much of the team's time can be consumed on work that is tied to or driven by regulatory compliance. How do you ensure that there's also adequate time in terms of managing risk and securing the company?
For the first few years that I was at MSCI, we had a NIST-oriented strategy. We met the board's objectives, and then it was basically a question of, all right, what's next? And so that's why we landed on MITRE. These sort of ethical tests are really the right way to test all of the collection of your controls rather than sort of testing each particular control individually.
It's literally impossible to have any security conversation without bringing up the impact of AI technologies at some point in the conversation. What's been your experience in the last year in adopting AI-enabled security tooling?
We're finding efficiencies all over the place. We have about 30 different tools that we're using across various parts of my team, but also even just outside of my team, we're seeing a huge uptick in the ability for software developers to deploy code faster, to fix code issues faster. I'm very excited about where the future is going to be.
How are you finding the experience of thinking about where you need to inject guardrails or guidance in every part of the business is looking at AI-enabled tooling as part of their tech strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit concerned about the proliferation of the agentic AI agents. But, in general, there's so many more benefits to the defense than the offense, right? From an offense perspective, what we're really seeing is just AI tools being used for much more sophisticated phishing campaigns, but we're not really seeing it being used yet for things like creating new malware strains and attacking us, although we know that's coming, right? Yeah. So we've got to I don't know how long the lead time is, maybe 6 months or 12 months or what have you, but I feel like we've got some time to shore up our defenses before that becomes a bit more ubiquitous.
Actually, Vernon, we were talking earlier, do you get any interesting phishing text messages or emails lately?
The two that I'm getting the most are tolls. We have these tolls and you need to pay them. Or like PayPal, they'll send me a bill and say, we spent this much Bitcoin. And I don't know who they get with that.
You know who they're getting though? They're getting elderly people, right? I think that's the problem. I worry about my parents a lot, with this sort of stuff.
If you look back at your last few years in this role, what's one thing that you've learned as you went that you don't think you could have prepared yourself for otherwise?
It's a new challenge every day. I think just getting used to that barrage of day-to-day changes is something that is really important. Generally, the industry is moving in the right direction, so I tend to be optimistic about the future.
And if you were to go back to yourself in that first job you held, what knowledge would you be imparting on your younger self?
I think that it's really important to get a diverse set of experience, getting a lot of exposure to a lot of different technologies, a lot of different companies, so using that knowledge to improve where you're at in your current role. I think that's really important.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciated learning about your experiences over an amazing cocktail. And Vernon, thank you so much for the drink.
Hope you enjoyed the scotch.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that wraps up another edition of our CISOs Making Cocktails. Thank you for joining us and see you on the next one.